partly, I think the half full versus half empty analogy ought to be thought about. A referendum that's based on the amount of information you get in sound bites and a number of disparate articles on matters is hardly the basis to get a really informed opinion developed across the community. So it's the nearest we got to it was the most extensive consultation that ever been held in New Zealand on a subject, which was run by Peter. And I think the reference document that we've got there says lots and lots of things that we could all more generally support. So now we've got to have a look and see how can we move this thing towards a good working model. Like any team, it's going to take us a while to learn how to play the game. We're not going to know it on the 1st of November. Everybody knows that. Graham's right, we could have postponed this for another decade because, you know, things were getting done, albeit, in my view, far slower before we got to the decision on electrification for the rail, that the argument that finally won was as good on the day it was first put up as it was finally before it got through. We can't afford 6 or 8 years of thinking about developing our further water supply, our transport systems and things. When something's got a coherent argument in support of it, we've got to find a way to get on and do it and move on, because the cost of delay for a really worthwhile project is much, much bigger than people really understand. And so my response to you is the consultation document, the best approach we'd ever get to having something like the forerunner of a referendum is there. Read it. If every citizen wants to read it, then they'll be better informed than they will get by reading the daily newspapers.
And it's a very good read too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Richard Northey, Auckland City Councillor.
Well, I think whatever the history is, as an Auckland City Councillor and someone who's going to stand for the Supercity, it's up to us to try and make it work for the people of Auckland. And I have great faith in the strength of civil society and the main streets and the tertiary institutions here, that whatever the structure that's emerged, it can't be crushed by that. I read the Herald 100 years ago. There was fierce debate about proposals to amalgamate the strong boroughs of Ponsonby, Parnell and Greylin into Auckland, and how they'd lose their identity if that happened. And whatever has happened since then, if you look at Ponsonby, for instance, had a strong working class white identity, then a Pacific Island working class one, now a liberal professional one, but it's maintained its identity, whatever the city or the government's tried to do. In the area that I represent, Onehunga, Glennon, Nasotahu, this council's tried to crush those communities, but they have stood up, they remain strong and proud, and I think that that is the strength that will oblige the politicians. And the most you want to look for in the mayoral candidates and the others is their ability to listen, because the ideas are there. I'm sorry to disagree with you, but you look at North Korea with its strong leader, or what, up since 1945, or Germany before 1945. That's well. But the vision's here. I've heard a lot of it being articulated here, and if you elect politicians who can listen to that and articulate it, and as people have said, the boards are quite away from those communities, and the structures that are there need to be nurtured below that as well.
Yep.
Thanks. So very briefly, thank you.
I really do need to.
Very, very briefly, because I'm afraid we have run over time. First of all, big thanks to the Department of Screen and Arts and Performing and Screen Arts for mounting this elaborate production, and Department of Management and Marketing for being at the forefront of that, and the Unitec Students' Union. Yes. Secondly, a big thank you to all you coming along to participate, and thirdly, a very big thank you to the panellists. 3 very brief themes that came out. Some sense that we can do better, and that the structure that's proposed is a step towards that. Secondly, it's been a very messy process along the way, from a great report through a typical sausage making system of Parliament, but we've improved some of the ingredients along the way. And thirdly, an awful lot to play for. Next week, we'll be looking at the structure as it's proposed, and we'll have some experts there to help us through that discussion. And then the following Tuesday, same time, same place, we will have hopefully all 7 candidates. So we've got a number of them lined up. I'm working on the rest. I know that Colin and I will be back. Very good. So please do come along and to next Tuesday and the following Tuesday if you can. And thank you very much for coming along this evening. Thank you and good night.